March the 5th, Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football and basketball. In hockey, too, this weekend. Oh, yeah, welcome in. Great to be here with you on this Wednesday, where if it wasn't for the rain every 10 minutes, you'd go outside and it would feel like spring, and you get those first moments of sunshine where you feel like it's happening, like the winter is going to be in the rear view mirror. That's what it felt like out there today. It's great to be with you. Whoa, kicking things around in the studio, and we'll be kicking things around via Michigan, as we always do. I've got some true or false questions that I put together for the Michigan offense for next year. And I will ask you, if you're someone who is watching this live, and we are here Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 2 o'clock live, you could participate in the show. You go on the feedback, you ask questions, you make points. I am asking you to give me a true or false question regarding the Michigan offense next year. I have some that I will be working through. That's how you can participate. It's great. The more, the merrier. That kind of thing. And I see just off the jump here that Scott is wanting, he's having a problem with the chat, and he's saying, let's get rid of Ripstar. Now, I understand how chats can work and how they can go down they can take a bad trajectory, and people can go back and forth, and it can be not about what is going on with the host or anything else. But I would have to say, from what I've seen with Rip, now Rip does message a lot. And if you have a problem with that, I'd say go ahead and go down to the next message. That's what I would say. You can tell he's a Michigan fan, and he likes hot wings and blue cheese. I mean, what's the problem, Scott? That's what I got to say. What's the problem with Rip? Now, look, I even like when there's no such thing as too much blue cheese. If you have too much blue cheese, and, so that's it. I don't think it's too much to me. And, like I said, again, just go to the next thing. It's like if you're watching something on TV and you're saying, I don't like, turn the channel. That's the way it goes. Now, I don't want you to turn this off, but, just go to the next message if you don't like what somebody is saying. Now, if it gets nasty and, a bunch of Spartans and Buckeyes, sometimes you think maybe that you do need to remove some of those kind of people. But Rip right now, I would say no. I like the feedback. I like to see what, he has to say. And look, man, like Rip's saying, like the live. I mean, what's wrong with that? Now, in addition to the true and false questions for the U of M offense that I will pose to you, I have also, just before I was coming on here today, I was just, browsing, and I saw ESPN, and they had a story, and, 9 times out of 10, their stories are premium stories. And it's like, okay, great. Whatever, that's great if you're a premium subscriber to ESPN, but this one was not. And so I said, well, and they were talking about Michigan. So I put, they've got 3 different, they were kicking around the Big Ten, 3 of their writers, college football writers. And I pulled out what they had to say about Michigan, and we'll work through that and see if they have, if we agree, if they're don't know what they're talking about. We'll get to that coming up after the true and false questions. We're going to start with the home finale for Michigan basketball tonight at the Chrysler Center, 6:30 tip-off against Maryland. Maryland will come in, and I don't know if it's because some people always expect the other shoe to drop, but then there was reason to think maybe there was going to be that this team might be dropping some shoes or whatever else. But the loss to Illinois, and they didn't just lose it. They got, smacked upside the head and lost by 20 and looked terrible doing it. I think sometimes we're all such big football fans that we treat basketball like football. It's like, oh, this is over. I mean, this is just, and it takes a little bit of adjustment. Sometimes maybe just somebody reminding you that, oh, you had a really bad loss, and it puts them behind the eight ball if they were going to do something magical like win the Big Ten regular season. But there's still a bunch of outs. It's like when you're playing poker and you peek down there and you have a pair of queens and you feel, I really like this pair of queens. And then you go all in, you get two or three other people calling you. And sure enough, you look over there and somebody's got an ace and somebody's got, a king, and you're feeling like, oh no, well, let's see what happens when they flip the cards. And tonight they'll be flipping some cards against Maryland. And the way I look at this, and everybody's got their opinions on what they think is going to happen and the NCAA tournament and all that. Some people are just happy to be where they are at, which is going to be in the tournament and everything. And they're able to look at it and have the losses roll right off their back. Others, I've heard that, why not? Hopefully they just bow out of the Big Ten tournament in the first day. So they'll be at optimum rest. And so they'll be ready to go for the NCAA tournament because they play so few guys and, they're taxed emotionally and mentally, and that'll be what's best for them. Maybe if they lose tonight's game and then Michigan State wins tomorrow, maybe people will say, well, Sunday, maybe just play the reserves against the Spartans because then you want to be really rested up for the Big Ten tournament. I don't know. I don't look at it at all like that. There's a case to be made for it would be a blessing in disguise if you were to lose. But they say usually it's in the dating realm. They say shoot or shoot. But if I'm telling you about shooters, do you hear the broadcasters when they say, sometimes you just need to see the ball go through the rim and what it can do for you as a player, as a shooter, what it can do for the momentum of the offense, what it can do for your overall team. This team, the most important thing is to get some players right. If I had to narrow it down to one thing, I could say just get right, which would cover everything. But yeah, you want everyone to elevate their game. But when you get to March and it's getting ready to be elimination time, they've got two games where, the season isn't over, where they won't be eliminated. But we know in Indy, if they lose, they're out. We know if they go to the NCAA tournament, they're out. When you hear people say your best players have to be your best players, Danny Wolf has not been Michigan's best player. Danny Wolf, and you could make a case, and I think almost everyone would agree, he's been the straw that has stirred this drink. He has been Dusty May's most important player. He has been the guy at 7 feet, the Jewish Joker that has taken Michigan and has people like, wow, look at the Wolverines. They've got a 7-footer who's running point. Look at this guy. He can shoot from 25 feet. He can take you off the dribble. He's a deft passer. All of these things. He's fallen off. If I could get one thing tonight and Sunday, I'd like to get wins. I'd like to get Danny Wolf. You need a guy to be able to take over. You need a player that you can look to get some buckets. I'm not sure I want Danny Wolf passing the ball over to Roddy Gale in the corner off of a drive. I want Danny Wolf to start dialing it in from downtown. I want Danny Wolf to be posting up from 15 feet and using that fadeaway when he's got guys like 6'7" on him. And he's going to have a guy in Queen on him tonight that's going to get drafted in the first round. He wants to really go in the first round of the NBA draft, take over and beat and win your opposite number tonight against the Terps. I feel like if it's an important game, not just because it's the last game at the Chrysler Center this year, Not just because they got blown out by 20 points their last time out, although that's in there. But it really feels like if they don't win tonight and get right, are they really going to win at the Breslin Center on Sunday? We've seen those last games up in East Lansing. Now they've got the tradition of, making out with the floor and crying and all of these curtain calls. They love it up in East Lansing. I'm not going to feel really good about Michigan's chances if they get beat by Maryland and then they have to go up to East Lansing. And if they get beat by Maryland and they get beat by Michigan State, this is like, oh, they're tired. There'll be a lot of people like, oh, they're frauds. All these things. Are we really going to say, well, let's just hope they lose their first game out of the double bye because then they can rest up for the tournament? If they lose tonight, if they lose Sunday, and if they do what some people want, lose their first game in Indy in the Big Ten tournament because they're too worn out, then who thinks they're really going to win a game in the NCAA tournament? I know crazy things can happen, but nobody really is going to think that. What you're going to hear is everybody like, oh, Michigan, they just reached their level and they have fallen off. They're a prime candidate for, they'll be on everybody's upset radar and all of that, and Michigan fans will be leading the way. So go out, and it's go time is what's happening right now. And this is when you need to play your best. Speaking of the best, the Maize and Blue Review, covering Michigan football and basketball, is the best. You want the best coverage? Join the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com. You want recruiting? You know the fluff? Go elsewhere. You want some real meat and potatoes? It's michigan.rivals.com. Let's get you over there. Let's get that conversation rolling on all the sports. Obviously, Michigan front and center over in the community on the Den. I'd like to see all you over there all day, all night. But this is it. This is not a meaningless game. This game gives you hope. This game gives you momentum for Sunday. There is still a chance. I'm not ready to predict this, but there is a chance that Michigan could win tonight and Michigan could win on Sunday. We don't know what's going to happen to Michigan State tomorrow. But even if it's not for a Big Ten championship, if Michigan could take that game on Sunday, and then when you think about where they're at getting the double bye in the Big Ten tournament with one win, certainly two, if Michigan State takes care of their business, they could see Michigan State 3 times this year. And I know they've lost the first, but what about beating them twice? This is even before the tournament starts. That would be amazing. That would be great if they would be able to do that. But I think that starts tonight. I don't see Michigan losing this game tonight and then going to Sunday and knocking off the Spartans. But hey, stranger things have happened there. But that's how I see it. Time to get fired up about that. A win and get right. It's go time. And it's most important for Wolf. After that, you can say, who else? Trey Donaldson. They're 3 best players all year long. There's not even an argument. I've been Wolf, Vlad, and Trey Donaldson. And Trey and Donaldson and Wolf have not been the kind of players you look at and say, oh, Michigan is a dangerous team now. Oh, Michigan. No. They played the opposite of that. So they need to get those guys right if they want to do something. That's what I'm looking at tonight. Let's see where the people are at before we go to football. Oh, Scott's already in on some football. Let's see. Any basketball? Scott asking about Jace Richardson. Is he the Big Ten Freshman of the Year? Jace Richardson has been fabulous, and I think he is going to be drafted in the first round. Who else would I be thinking about that could be a freshman that might be right? I think, Richardson to me is the one. All right. Hadley. Hope your good luck for the game tonight. Oh, he's got a true or false. Yes, that's right. I am going after I get done here today and maybe go out and take my goats out and have them enjoy some of this sunshine. It's going to be down to Ann Arbor to get ready for the basketball game. Ferris, in terms of basketball, says we still control our destiny to win the Big Ten regular season. Stay focused and win. This is true. If they beat Maryland and they beat Michigan State, they will have served up Michigan State a loss, which will then give them a tie. Will that give them a share? Is that correct? Of the regular season head to head? Yeah, I think that's correct. Isn't that right? Kenneth is talking about Wolf needs another year. Whether you need another year or not, it's about if a team is going to take you in the top 40. And maybe there'll be a team. But I'll tell you, the scouts, what's not lost on them is how he's been playing recently. They watch him, and he plays these next couple games like he has these last couple. Scouts are going to look at him and say, yeah, team started getting physical with him. Team started, blitzing him. Maybe he needs to work on his condition. Maybe he needs to work on his handle. And we're not taking him in the first round. But hey, look, he's got a nice skill set. It's still up in the air. If I had to say today, if he was going to get picked, that's a difficult thing to look. I would say no. But it's not really about whether you need another year of college basketball. It's about if you're going to get drafted. And so you're saying, if I rework this for you, Kenneth, it would say Wolf will not be drafted in the top 40 as it stands right now. And I think that you could make a case for that, the way that he's played these last few games. G Money says, will they win tonight? I am inclined to say yes. Playing at home after the bitter disappointment and knowing that they need to get right, there's no more time. And that they still do have a chance, really, at 3 championships. The Big Ten championship, regular season, the tournament championship, and the NCAA tournament championship. If you can't win tonight on your home floor after getting blasted like they did last time out, then there's not going to be anybody that's lining up thinking, oh, yeah, they're okay now. It's going to be the opposite. They want full momentum behind them of the fan base and everything else. Win tonight. If not, it's going to be like, oh, I think if Michigan loses tonight, I think the majority of Michigan fans think that they're just going to lose out the rest of the way. They lose tonight. They're not going to win Sunday. They're not going to win whoever they play in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and they will be one and done in the NCAA tournament. 4 losses. That's what people think. That's what the majority of people will think if they lose tonight. So go win the ball game. Yeah, just win. Just get it done. Yeah, just win, baby. Scott putting it down saying if Wolf scores 15 plus, we will win. I'll buy that if Wolf scores 15, Michigan will win. Yeah, there's Michigan is projected right now, mostly when you start looking at everything, is a 4 seed, but there's a chance that they could be moving up. I mean, can you get into the top 10? Can you then, what you do in Indianapolis, that can boost that resume. Again, help out those net wins. They're going to help out those quads and that net ranking and your strength of record. Yeah, that's still out there for them. Ferris is getting a little bit of ahead of himself. He's talking about avoiding Auburn until the final game. If we can do that, we have a shot after the Final Four. Yeah, it's a little bit too early to be talking about avoiding the best team in the country. Although the best team in the country, man, they got smacked upside the head last night by Texas A&M, hasn't it? I need to give the goats some treats. Good idea. They have a steady, straight up. They have some treats of grain, or I think there's some honey in there, but maybe give them some variety. Maybe get them. They like these sweet potato chips. They seem to be really high on those. This is a weird one. Not weird because I hadn't thought about DJ Wilson in a while. I hope Wolf doesn't turn out to be a DJ Wilson. Well, DJ Wilson showed a lot of promise for Michigan, and then it was like, wow, man, this guy will be awesome if he comes back, and then he didn't, but he got taken in the first round. So it was a smart move by DJ Wilson to go pro. So I hope if Danny Wolf goes pro that he gets taken in the first round or the first couple picks of the second round. What I don't hope is that he goes pro. Michigan doesn't finish up strong, goes pro, and then doesn't get taken at all. Something like that. Well, we're talking Zingermans. You guys got me talking Zingermans. I hadn't thought about that. Let's see. Hadley's never, I was talking about Ripstar. Hadley has never made two messages, posts in the same show, and here he is. He's talking about if Michigan wins both games and Moo U wins Thursday, we'll share the Big Ten. How about if Moo U, as Hadley calls it, how about they lose tomorrow and then Michigan wins both games? Where are we sitting at? Yeah. Needs some step up. Let's go. Let's do it. Maze man is in. He gets fired up. He's fired up about Michigan at all times. I like people that are always fired up about Michigan. It's one thing you talk about Michigan football. And I was thinking, I remember the days when Michigan was losing, like 15, 16 years, that run that Ohio State. Oftentimes I would wake up and say, man, I don't know, every day, I don't know. How are they going to do it? Well, now that they've done that, it's pretty easy to come up and think about Michigan football and where they're at right now. Let's get to those true-false questions. Let's see. Somebody already I've got a couple true-false questions, and then we got what ESPN had to say about Michigan. Let's go through. We've already got some football questions. Rip I said, hockey's always good to go, especially this time of year right now. We're into the Big Ten tournament. Rip is saying Michigan hockey versus Penn State. He meant to say Friday. The Big Ten tournament starts this weekend, but Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, if necessary. It's in Ann Arbor. So those are games that you love to go to. Those are games that are great. Those games are, the hockey now, every game that you can watch is awesome. I think in everybody's opinion, likes Michigan, likes hockey, likes great competition. That's it. Scott is talking about Donovan Edwards having a great pro camp. I predict second round. Well, Scott, that would be a huge shock if Donovan Edwards gets taken in the second round. It would be a shock if Donovan Edwards got taken in the third round. It would be a shock if Donovan Edwards got picked in the fourth round. The way the projections, when I see the projections, I don't even see Donovan Edwards getting selected. Now, he did have a good camp or a pro day. Combine. He had an excellent combine. I was looking at the backs, and, I get it. The top guys. But I happen to think, and I'm not going to be like Scott and talk about the second round, but I think NFL teams, and I see all of these scouts and evaluators and mock drafters and everything else, they don't have them anywhere. But I think real GMs and real NFL scouts, when they sit down, when they look at the tape and they look at Edwards' skill set, you know what they'll see? They'll see home run ability. And you know what? You know what baseball teams like? They like power. You know what NFL teams like? They like explosiveness and flash plays, splash plays, and they like home run ability. And that's what Donovan Edwards brings. And he flashed that in Indianapolis. So I am of the opinion, I don't have anything. He's got a good attitude as well. I think Donovan Edwards will be a steal in the NFL draft. Now, again, I don't think he's going to be taken to the second round. But with his home run ability, and what he ran, Michigan, if I again, be pretty awesome if I was an NFL scout. I would go back to my general manager and say, you know, Michigan's great and everything. They were great, and Edwards was productive, and look at how he did, especially in these big games. He played hurt, one arm bandit when they really needed him. He was awesome. MVP of the Big Ten title game in 22. Ran all over Ohio State. He was awesome. But Michigan didn't use him like we'll use him. We'll line him up. We'll have him as a wide receiver. We'll put him in the slot. We'll throw him the ball more than we run him. And the GM will be like, don't tell anybody. Oh, there's Michigan fans that look at him like, no, Donovan Edwards is. I think a lot of Michigan fans have turned into mock drafters or whatever else. I don't know what these mock drafters, they're just missing it. Now, look, there were 7 of the backs that were in front of them that I never even heard of. So I haven't watched them. So maybe if I looked at all their tape, I'd say, oh man, there's the home run. Wow, man, look at this guy. This guy's awesome. Let me put him in front of Donovan Edwards and all that. But not just what I know and what I've seen and how I fit players into the NFL. Edwards will be a steal, Scott. I'm with you. Overall, what we're talking about. All right. So, what's funny is Scott was ripping on Rip Star for posting so much. He said it's just too much. And then Scott has put 10 posts himself up. He's talking about Vlad Golden's parents not seeing him in 5 years, and they picked the Illinois game. A great video of him hugging his mom at the airport. Yeah, I've seen all of those. Well, that's a long time when you think about at that age not being able to see your parents with the dedication, but they kept cutting to him during the game. Vlad played excellent in that game, so he doesn't have anything to hang his head about when we're down there. All right, let's see. Ferris talking football. He's talking about Michigan. 4 Michigan players might get drafted before the first Ohio State player gets picked. Michigan is great for future career preparation. Yeah, that's not a. Those are things that are nice. Winning a championship, we know it's all about that. These guys all won a championship, so if they didn't, you'd say, yeah, I'd rather win the champ. Michigan won the championship. It's a nice thing to put on the resume. It's a nice thing for Michigan to put up there about that. And anything that you could put in a positive light about your team, you put up there. So yeah, you'd be good in public relations for Michigan, Ferris. I think you should go work down in the PR department. It's good. It's good stuff. All right, football. Let's see. More do we get down here? I've got the football questions. We're working on it. And The 5th round to the Niners. How about that? Imagine if he went to the Chiefs. I like this comparison. He's like, who's the Mets first baseman? The Panda, is that his name? He's like that guy. He'll crank you out 40 home runs, but he's really going to hit 220. He's probably got a pretty good on base percentage. Kenneth thinks he'll be a better pro because we didn't use him to his strength. Yeah, there you go. Old Kind Tick. I think you have to say it fast to make it say it the correct way. Kind Tick 615 thinks Edwards gets drafted because it's becoming more and more evident that his lack of productivity this past year was more an indictment of Campbell's ineptitude at offensive coordinator than Edwards' abilities. Yeah, I mean, it was so. The one thing that I don't like about that is that Kirk Campbell didn't do a good job, but neither did Sharon Moore. So Sharon Moore, if we go back, you could say the same thing. So it's fine if you want to be critical of Kirk Campbell, but I feel like you should be critical of Sharon Moore at the same time. When guys are out, nobody's, the guys are here. Call it the same way. Sharon Moore didn't handle the running backs well last year. Sharon Moore didn't handle the quarterbacks last year. Sharon Moore didn't handle the offense very well. Now, look, Sharon Moore was in his first year, and, move on. And I'm not talking about moving on from Sharon Moore, especially the way they finished up the season and how things are going in recruiting. And I do think from a game management standpoint, there have been plenty of coaches, pro and college, that have had some issues and struggled and have been able to bounce back. And, so that's that. But, something about when guys are gone, I feel like you should have put down here the Michigan staff. I don't think this was not all Kirk Campbell. Michigan, that is the reason that Donovan Edwards wasn't used correctly. You think Kirk Campbell was the one saying, no, we're going to start Dano. We're starting him, Sharon, because that's what I want to do. Do I think back in the spring that it was Kirk Campbell like, oh, yeah, we're good. We're good with what we got. Look at old Orgy throwing the ball around. He's going to be fabulous for us. Let's just roll with him. We don't need anybody else. I think that's a combo platter when it comes down to that. So I get it. Whew. Oh, we're talking pull-ups. Yeah, I'm not ready yet for. I said this a month or two ago. I don't know if I've ever done a pull-up, like a real pull-up. It's like, I'm just not ready for that. I mean, I'm not sure that's a goal of mine either. We'll see. We'll work on some of the other goals first, but so pull-up could be in there. Okay. True or false on the Michigan offense? Bryce Underwood needs to start from game one for U of M to be a playoff team this year. Playoffs. Underwood needs to start game one for U of M to be a playoff team this year. I am going to say that is false. I do think at some point he's going to have to get out there, and I think he's going to play from game one. And that's always one of those things that can be, I don't like playing two quarterbacks, but in this situation, until Underwood is ready, we get it. It is going to be that dynamic of the fans wanting and calling for him in the spring game, in all summer long, in game one. I think that 90% of Michigan fans want No, what 100% of Michigan fans want him to win the job and be the starter from game one. But then I think there's also a lot of the fans understand that it doesn't mean that he still can't be a GOAT at Michigan at the quarterback position if he's not in there from game one. He doesn't have to be. G Money thinks it's true. Farrah's playing both sides of the coin. It's too early for him. Talk about something. What are you're gonna have to? Are you gonna wait till spring and then you see him? But I don't think that it's going to be game one. I've been playing the scenarios out in my head. Michigan goes out there and they beat New Mexico handily, and Underwood comes in and looks good. Well, people are going to want him to start. People are going to want him to start from game one. And then however he looks and however Keene looks, anything that Keene does is a little bit like Kirk Campbell and maybe Sharon Moore or Jim Harbaugh. Anything that Keene does positively in game one is going to be not looked at in as glowingly as anything Underwood does. Anything that Underwood does positive is going to be magnified by the fans tenfold. We all get that. So the pressure of Chip Lindsey and Sharon Moore to decide when, and that's why I hope that Underwood seizes control of this job immediately in spring, and it's pretty obvious, and then they get to fall camp, and it is going to be Underwood. The game of the fans being like, Keene's not all that. Meanwhile, Underwood's great. We want Underwood. And sooner rather than later. But he doesn't have to be in there for game one. I can tell you, if things don't go well week 2 against Oklahoma, then the call for Underwood, even if he doesn't play well, who cares? And then let's say they, I hope this doesn't happen, so we'll just do it quick. What if Michigan lost 2 of their first 4 games at at Oklahoma, at Nebraska, with Keene as the quarterback? Well, then it's going to be like, it doesn't even matter how Underwood is done in those games. It's going to be like, the season's over. Let's play Underwood. Let's get him ready. Let's get him the reps. All of these things, it's going to be talked about like that. Folks, we are in the presence of a superstar. The star of Michigan football, of Michigan basketball games, none other than the superstar himself, True Blue Tom. Tom, who has found a great spot on Twitter, because he lays down the truth. True Blue is saying the coaches will know when he is ready for some playing time and when ready to start. Now, go Blue. Now, yeah, Tom, you're right. But that's not going to stop all of us from saying that coach should do this and Underwood should be in. And if Lindsey doesn't put him in sooner than later, then we don't care about their backgrounds and how much football they know. We want them in. So that's it. Kenneth says, if they play it like the Cade wait. Was he going to say, I think they play it like the Cade JJ scenario? The Cade JJ scenario, I don't think they can afford to do a Cade JJ scenario. And that was year 2 when it was just an all-out battle royale between the quarterbacks. Harbaugh was like, we're going to play Cade, and then we're going to play JJ, and whoever's better, we're going with. Cade crapped his pants. JJ seized the job. The rest is history. But you can't really do that in this game. It's not like you could say, well, we're going to start Underwood, and then we're going to throw Keene against Oklahoma, and whoever's best will see CMU. So then if Michigan had 3 super easy games, CMU, New Mexico, and in Huckabuck State, then you could say maybe they could do something like that, but they don't have that luxury. All right, let's get to the next true or false question. True or false? Michigan's offense. Michigan fans have higher expectations for Bryce Underwood right away than any player in Michigan history. Any player in Michigan history. We've seen some great ones. And, quarterbacks, it could take a while. Has there ever been a player in over 100 years that fans have higher expectations right out of the gate for than Bryce Underwood? G Money is saying true. True Blue Tom is talking about he thinks ultimately both guys are going to play. Rip is saying false. Justin Fargas had the highest expectations. Now, Fargas was a running back that was the number one running back in the country. There is no doubt about that. But he also had other players on the roster that he was there. He didn't start from game one. Oh, you're not talking about Fargas? Are you talking about the dude that was hurdling guys on the video that went to Rice? Forgetting his name. I don't know who Fegan is. A quarterback. Who? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where you're at on that one. I missed it. So, yeah, I mean, I followed Michigan football. I've never heard of that guy, so there were no expectations for that guy. You're talking about the joke part because he got busted for something off the field, so that kind of went over my head maybe. I am going to say that is true. Not only is he looked at, and Rivals doesn't have him number one overall, but he has a number two, but almost across the board, the number one player in recruiting. He's a quarterback. Last year, Michigan was the worst quarterback. They had the worst quarterback room in the country. There's not even a debate about that. They went from the worst ever, and now they got the number one guy, and they paid. We don't know exactly. His dad said, no, it was pretty close to what LSU was saying, and LSU was down there like, we needed a lot more money, so we don't know. And then there were some reports talking about, $10, $12 million, but I think it's safe to say that we would all agree that Bryce Underwood is the highest paid college football player ever. And he's coming into Michigan, who had the worst quarterback room ever. And now, I'm sorry, they had the worst. There's been some poor quarterback rooms. But they had the worst quarterback room in the entire country last year. So here we are. Tom agrees. That's all I need is Tom's affirmation there. Let's see. Kenneth is saying that Underwood will... Let me see if this is true. He's giving me a true or false. This is what I wanted, Kenneth. Underwood will only go as far as the ingenuity of the OC and more in what they scheme up. Let me just go with that first part. Coaches can help you so much, but I mean, are we really going to put it on the ingenuity? I'm putting it more on the talent. And Underwood could be supremely talented, Kenneth, and you and I could be the offensive coordinator. You could be the offensive coordinator. I could be the quarterback coach, and Underwood could be a success. No, we're just not going to roll the balls out there for him. We're not going to anoint him as we'll have this conversation, Kenneth, but we're not just going to put him out there. He'll have to earn it. But I don't know about if it's going to be the ingenuity. If you've got great talent, It's always the question, isn't it? Would I have been able to coach Wayne Gretzky without ever having skated in a hockey game in my life? Or Michael Jordan? I mean, those are the things. So I'm going to say false on your first part of that first sentence. The other part is true or false. Underwood won't live up to the expectations if the offense is just window dressing to run the same offense. Woo! Look at that one. That kind of goes to my next true or false, Kenneth. Nice job. True or false on the Michigan offense next year? U of M's identity will be running the ball. We all agree at some point, Kenneth, that it is going to be Bryce Underwood that's going to be the quarterback. I think it's going to be for the Wisconsin game coming off a bye at Nebraska. It's a conservative, but, knowing how things play out and over the years and seeing the spot of a bye week, that is what I have thought for a while now. So you're going to have the hot shot multimillionaire in there at some point. And is Michigan's identity still going to be running the ball? Kenneth is saying that Underwood will not live up to the expectations if the offense is just window dressing to run the same old offense. Now, look, I will agree on this, Kenneth. If I would say true, if you were talking about his entire career, I'll answer this question, and I am going to say true. Michigan is going to be smash. Michigan is smashing the ball. That's what's going to be happening. And Bryce Underwood, I am not expecting him now. And look, I hope that it's different. Like I said, I hope that he starts from game one. I'm just trying to be, like that is something that I think everybody can hope for. That he's just out there and he's just awesome right away, and he grabs the job, and Sharon Moore's like, yeah, he earned it. He earned it. He's better. He has full support of the team, and we're all behind him. Quarterback room's completely behind him. He's just an amazing talent. He's a great kid. He's humble. He's driven. He is. He's our QB1, right out of the gate. But even if he is that, he's going to have some growing pains, I suspect, in this first year. I think it's, what I think about is JJ. I remember that first game, JJ was like doing a spin in the Rama, and he did a Mahomes, like ran way over here, and then he threw it 50 yards across the field, and it went for a touchdown. Wasn't it his first game? But even JJ in his first couple starts in 2022, he was trying a little bit too much Mahomes, a little bit too much pirouette, a little bit too much trying to keep it alive. And I remember getting smacked in the I remember him fumbling the ball against Maryland. I remember at Iowa, he had another one where he wasn't looking. Boom, he got nailed, and the ball came. But you know what he did after that? They, Harbaugh and those company coached him up, and he got way better. By game 4, he was way better at protecting the ball. And if the truth is to be told about J.J. McCarthy, Cade may have been able to win all of those games in 2022, except when it came to the Ohio State game at Ohio State. And what happened in that game is J.J., he was not connecting on the deep ball. He's a young quarterback. He was everything else, super smart, could get everybody, but he was having troubles. Now, it would have been nice if Andrell Anthony stepped up against Illinois because he threw a pretty capable bomb to him, and it would have been like, okay, there's the deep pass. That's the you broke the seal. He's going to be fine. But it wasn't until the Ohio State game. Funny that they were down and it took him kind of backing up, throwing the ball, and Kojo ended up taking it the distance. And that was kind of like Michigan winning a basketball game or a jump shooter seeing the ball go through the net. That got JJ going because then he started unleashing the deep ball. Then he was hooking up with Kojo down the field. Then he was finding Loveland. Then he was whipping it down the field, and they had to commit penalties. Then he was running it in, running over Denzel Burke. So what I am saying, even with McCarthy, and that was in his second year, it took him to the last game of his second year where you could say that he had all of the tools in his toolbox. Remember, we're hoping that Underwood, because he's going to play, he has to next year, that he can get it going quicker than that. But it's still going to be smash. Kenneth, are you thinking that Michigan's just going to come out and they're going to be like, let's start whipping it all over the place because Underwood's just, maybe that'll be the case. Rip says you can't put so much pressure on the quarterback to do more than they can. We need to be a successful run team. All right, I've got another one coming your way here, so we'll recap them all if you're just joining us. And I know you're really excited to hear all of my true or falses on the Michigan offense. I got one more, and then we'll get to the ESPN stuff that they said about Michigan today. True or false on the Michigan offense? U of M has its game-breaking number one wide receiver on its roster right now. Ooh. Now the first time I typed it in, I said U of M has its number one wide receiver on its roster. You can say, well, yeah, you don't know who the other guy is, but do they have a legit number one game-breaking wide receiver on their roster right now? This is what Rip says, I think, is what everybody thinks. I hope so, but that's not true or false. I answered the question. I'll say here, no. I mean, that's false. Ferris is answering it false. Tom is answering it Donovan McCulley, so I think he's saying true. I am saying, and this is the toughest one out of all of them, I think, true. Could it be Samaj Morgan? Could it be Fred Moore? Could it be Donovan McCulley, who True Blue Tom just mentioned? Could it be Moore or Morgan? Get the three M's. I like they got three M's again, McCulley, Moore, and Morgan. I think out of the three M's, you're cooking there on one. You got a second phase. I don't think any of these guys are going to be flat out number ones. Kendrick Bell, Peyton O'Leary, Amarian Walker. Specialty players, possession receivers. Walker, maybe a red zone if we're talking about what he could do is if what we envision, just as sitting back watching these guys, what we envision they could be, a red zone threat, jump ball, Walker or Leary. I hate to just paint the the white guy as a possession, but he is a possession receiver. I don't think he's going to be blasting down and Kendrick Bell, the super smart wide receiver. Ronnie's little bro that, he's not going to surprise anybody if he's out there on the field a little bit more than I think. And then they got to look at all these wild cards. Channing Goodwin, same high school as Jaden Davis. Amarian Stewart, we don't know. These are what the springs. CJ Charleston came in, was a good blocker. I would say no. I don't think he's going to. It would be a huge shocker if they came out and Sharon Mower's like, we got our ex wide receiver and his name is CJ Charleston. No, I think probably not him, but Goodwin or Stewart, who knows? And then three freshmen. Could a true freshman be a number one game breaker. I'm giving you the true or false. Browder, Jamar Browder, Andrew Marsh, Jacob Washington. Could it happen out there? There's a lot. That's a lot of wide receivers. That's why I said true. I mean, out of all of these guys, McCulley, Moore, Morgan, Goodwin, Stewart, Browder, Marsh, Washington. Was the Marsh at Michigan State, was he a true freshman this year? I mean, that guy was incredible. I think he was. Could Michigan's Marsh be like State's Marsh from last year? Because State's Marsh was an incredible number one game-breaking wide receiver. And I don't know, when it comes down to the I got to call you back. All right. So that's it when it comes down to that. Now let's get to the final piece here. I like how this is put by Ferris. We have quantity with the hopes of quality somewhere in there. And they got a lot to throw at the position. It wouldn't be a shock, but would it be a surprise to see a true freshman be considering that no one that you look at, and we don't know McCulley, you hear good things about him. Oh yeah, he did it at Indiana, but it's been a while. So he's big. I think we got to see him in the maize. I have to see him in the maize and blue before I'm ready. I'm not doing any anointing. I have to admit, I believe out of all of this, and I don't think you guys out there will believe this. I feel like Michigan fans are more down on him than thinking that he's going to be their number one game-ranking wide receiver. But I think Samaj Morgan could be that receiver. I really like what I saw from him, not so much last year. In fact, I don't know if I did see anything that I liked from him. Did I see anything that I liked from Samaj Morgan last year? Anything? But the year before, there were a lot of things that I liked about him. He reminded me of Antonio Brown before, the CTE. He looked awesome. I thought he was on the path of superstar, but you know what? I'm not holding it. They had no quarterback last year that could throw the ball. A forward pass. Again, the worst quarterback room in the country. I feel like Morgan, if you're asking me, I know there was a pick of McCulley, and he is the name. He's big, and, he's maybe he's just going to be that guy. But I'm going with Morgan. Is going to be my pick on there. And McCulley just feels like he's going to be like, he's big. He's Nico Collins size. So it's like maybe they're getting Nico Collins. Should be nice. And Samaj Morgan is, 5'10". So when you deal with wide receivers and, trying to say that, hey, a 5'10" guy is going to be leading the way, and you've already seen him for 2 years, people are like, yeah, I don't know. Then somebody will say, he got caught from behind in the Big Ten championship game. And I'll be like, all right. Oh, here's MGO Blue 1, 2, 3, 4. Dropping a bag. And he says, go blue. 42-27, 45-23, 30-24, and 13-10. I know what those are. That 13-10 score. We own Ohio State this decade, and we lead the all-time series. Let's make it 5 straight this year. The emoji where you're blowing smoke, like standing on business. I don't know what else. Smoke blowing. I like that emoji. I don't know if I've ever used it myself. I want to. I want to use it. I want to find a way. Samaj Morgan will be Michigan's star wide receiver. Smoke blowing emoji. Can I do it? Let me try. All right. Maybe at the end. I'm still got other stuff to do. Good stuff. No, that's Thank you, thank you very much, M Go Blue 1234. Yes, I would like the number one jersey to be earned versus anointed. Although there's always, we have to talk about that, Rip, because does anyone deserve the number one jersey right now? No, no one deserves it. But what if the kid from Cass Tech, CJ Sadler, he's about as close to a 5-star wide receiver as you could get. What if he says, I talked to Braylon Edwards, and Braylon said you got to earn the number one. And he says, I want the number one. I don't know. That doesn't make the greatest story. No, Braylon said, I deserve the number one. I want the number one jersey. Sadler is saying that, the wide receiver from Cass Tech. And if I'm sitting here and I'm on Michigan's staff, do I say, does Ron Bellamy say, no, you got to earn it? Do you say that? Or do you say, if that's the deal breaker, he's going to get his, 500,000 or whatever he's going to get. He's going to get his 500,000. He says, I also want the number one jersey. Am I going to say Rip doesn't want it handed out? He wants you to earn it. I'm sorry. Out of everything that's going on, Rip Star says, we'll give you blue cheese and hot wings and 500 grand, but not the number one jersey. You're going to have to earn that. I'm going to make an allowance for a player, a special player. That's where, it can be a little bit of a, it's, I think we all agree what you're saying. And then you have to make certain allowances sometime. Yeah. Mario Manningham was 5'11". Yeah. You can be you can be a great wide receiver. How tall's, the Giants wide receiver was on my fantasy team this year. Malik Neighbors. He's not that tall. Let's see what he's listed. I want to see if he's under. I'm going to say he's under 6 feet. They'll probably have it at 6 feet tall, but Neighbors isn't that big. Samaj Morgan, Malik Neighbors. That's how this will go. Hey, the guy on the Maize and Blue Review was saying that Samaj Morgan could be the next Malik Neighbors. Now, see, now that goes, that's a little bit too much of a lofty comparison. I know he's going to be listed as 6 feet, so I don't even know why I'm looking, but because I just want him to be listed at 5'10", 6 feet. Maybe Morgan's grown a little bit. So there you go. Okay, we'll get to a couple more. Yeah, you're right, Rip. Got to go. So ESPN, I mentioned it earlier. I was looking, and they were doing a college football preview, and they were just throwing around questions. 3 other writers were. Rittenberg was one of them. I would say the other two's names, but I don't remember what they were. But this is from ESPN from today, talking about Michigan spring storyline. New offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey arrives with a mandate to overhaul a passing game that finished only above the 3 service academies in 2024. His development of incoming national number 1 recruit Bryce Underwood at quarterback will be closely watched, but Lindsey must take a global approach to getting more production from an offense that also loses its top 2 running backs. Whoever wrote this, I don't know. I think overall in his career, I would say that this is correct. Lindsey wants to take the passing game to a bump it up. If it's a mandate to overhaul a passing game that was the worst in the country last year, all right. Yeah. Chip Lindsey has a mandate to develop his quarterback, to find 2 new running backs, and to find a receiving core. with a brand new offensive line. Hey, that's all. Let's go. LFG. The next one was position of intrigue. ESPN writes defensive tackle. No FBS team loses a better tandem of interior defensive linemen as Michigan must replace Mason Graham, a projected top 5 pick, and Kenneth Grant, a possible late first-round pick. Rayshon Benny's return is significant, and Michigan must build depth around him with transfers Damon Payne from Alabama and Trey Williams from Clemson. Yeah, I think position of intrigue. Jim Scarcelli, was it on Monday or was it last Monday, was saying his biggest question mark was replacing, the football gods, the gift from the football gods. So that's hard to replace a gift from the football gods. But they got Benny and it's going to be tough. That is intriguing. No doubt about that. Here's the other thing, or the last thing that ESPN said about Michigan. It came down to player to watch. And Adam Rittenberg is the one that weighed in on this one. And he said, safety Rod Moore, one of the heroes from Michigan's 2023 win against Ohio State and a captain, returns after missing all of last season with a knee injury. Even as he works back to full health, Moore's leadership should be invaluable for the new look defense. I think everybody's shaking their head about that. Like, oh yeah, Rod Moore. Rod Moore is great. Rod Moore is awesome. Rod Moore was the captain. Rod Moore was the hero with that pick against Ohio State. Rod Moore is a quarterback as a safety back there. Rod Moore, if Michigan was in the hunt, probably could have come back late last season. So he's far removed from that knee injury. And that's something that you do keep an eye on when a guy comes back from the knee. Is he going to be the player that he was before? But all of the intangibles, the smarts, what I remember is Wink Martindale. He just talked with the Michigan Home Podcast today or yesterday. But last year, before Rod Moore got hurt, he was like, yeah, I talked to Rod Moore. And Rod Moore, you could tell how impressed he was. You could tell he was impressed with Rod Moore, and you could tell he was impressed with Mason Graham right off the bat. That's who he was talking about. That's it. So that's it. Smash. Here's Smash the numbers. We should probably try to get more than 62 yards passing versus Ohio State this year. That's right. Should probably try to do that. All right, that's going to do it. I want to remind folks that we are always on after the Michigan basketball games tonight. I'm going to the games, and then so I have to make my way back from the arena. So it's not going to be just 5 minutes after, probably more like an hour after the Michigan-Maryland game tonight. Program reminder on this feed that you're watching and listening to and commenting on and subscribing to and liking on this very channel that you're watching or listening to. So we'll see you tonight after the game, about an hour after the game. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you tonight.